Hey guys, welcome once again to the Real World Prepper. I am he. On this episode, this is one day after the Super Bowl 2019. What is that, Super Bowl 52 or 3? I don't know. I'm not a sports guy. But I kind of wanted to talk about a few things. I wanted to touch on first real quick, just to remind you, my channel's About page says, "Welcome to the Real World Prepper. This channel seeks to educate and inform as well as entertain. We will discuss much about prepping, preparedness, world events, politics, gear and equipment, conspiracies, and more. We intend to do so in a realistic way, hopefully in a way that helps our fellow man. So if you enjoy our content, please like, share, and hit the subscribe button and the bell notification." Now, the reason I mentioned my About page is because today I want to touch a little bit on conspiracy. So here we go. Okay guys, thank you for joining today. Let me first start off by saying that I'm not a sports guy. I'm not a football guy. You know, we had a couple of warm days this weekend and the mosquitoes come out from everywhere. It's amazing. It's been cold and wet and nasty, and you get halfway a nice day, which we had 2 of them, Saturday and Sunday, and mosquitoes, I mean inside here even, but I digress. I'm not a sports guy. I'm not into football, anything like that. That being said, I usually watch one football game a year. It's usually the Super Bowl. You know, in the past, it's been because, you know, my friends who are into sports, you know, hey, come on over for the Super Bowl and all that. And so, you know, I've gone before. And in the last few years, my child, you know, thinks it's neat, the whole idea of a Super Bowl party. And, you know, so we had one, just me and my wife and my child last night. And, you know, made some snacks and this, that, and the other. And my child made it about halfway through, you know, till about halftime, and then it was bedtime. And then my wife and I clicked it off and watched something else till about the last 2 minutes, checked in just to see who won. But that being said, what we did see in the first half and then certainly during the halftime show was kind of what I expected to see, what I've seen other channels report on many times. Excuse me. And what I couldn't help but notice, I wasn't looking for it, guys. I was just trying to hang out, relax, have a fun evening, you know, get into the game a little bit and all that good stuff. And I couldn't help but notice some predictive programming. Now, for those of you who do not know what predictive programming is, and I would garner that most of you do, but for those of you who don't or might need a refresher, and this is from Wiki. This is how Wiki describes it. Predictive programming, a recurring element across many conspiracy theories. The claim is that when conspirators plan a false flag operation, I'm going to talk about that in a second too. The claim is that when conspirators plan a false flag operation, they hide references to it in popular media before the atrocity takes place. When the event occurs, the public has softened up and therefore passively accepts it rather than offering resistance or opposition. Think, surely you guys have all seen this. On The Simpsons, you know, they've got the deal about The Simpsons where prior to 9/11, you know, Bart's holding, I don't watch The Simpsons really either, but Bart's holding this magazine and it says it's $9, I think, and then the Twin Towers are behind it, which the 9 and the Twin Towers makes it look like 9/11 or whatever. And then more recently, where it shows Donald Trump coming down an escalator and some people on the balcony next to him, you know, and then his bid for presidency and everything. And literally there are some pictures in media that look like they staged them to look just like the Simpsons episodes. I mean, you know, Google that. If you haven't seen that, Google, I'm sure it'll come right up. Simpsons, Donald Trump, you know, escalator. I'm sure you'll find it. But and then him standing in front of a podium, you know, that looks a lot like his Trump for president podium. And this all took place prior to Donald Trump becoming president, long before he even was in the running. Anything like that. So interesting to me. Now, again, a reoccurring element across many conspiracy theories, the claim is that when the conspirators plan a false flag operation, now, false flag operation, is an operation conducted by one party or government and made to appear as though it were sponsored by another party or government. You guys probably already know this too. The term false flag has its origins in the tradition of honorable naval warfare, where ships were required to sail under their own national flag in order that they could be identified. People learned that they could be sneaky by sailing under false colors or false flags, right? And carry out, you know, missions and bombings and loots and attacks and whatever, you know. So that's where the term false flag comes from. So that's so you know what that means too. If you didn't, I'm sure that you do. Many of you, anyway, most of you. So predictive programming, you know, it's basically where they put it in your face. The short version, they put it in your face enough times and often enough to where all of a sudden you dull down to it, you numb down to it, it becomes more normalized. I'm going to speak on something here. This is no offense to members of the LGBTQ, etc. community, okay? If any of you guys are my viewers or subscribers, I appreciate you, just like I do everyone else. But let me point something out. This is an example of, I don't know if this is an example of predictive programming, but it's certainly an example of how we can be programmed. I want to say statistically speaking, the LGBTQ, etc. community represents, I want to say it's about 1.5% of the United States population. Okay? What percentage of coverage in the media would you say that community gets? Commercials, TV shows, you know, movies, and I don't mean with just actors per se that happen to be LGBTQ, etc. I mean that where that's the topic, or that is a you know, an important aspect of a given character or storyline, or etc. I don't have numbers on that, but I'm going to say it's somewhere in about the 50% range, just from what I see. So to me, that shows that there definitely is an agenda to push the normalcy of the LGBT, of that community. Sorry, guys, I'm tripping all over my tongue today. You know, and I only use that as an example of predictive programming, because, you know, if they are able to normalize, those who program this stuff, those who control the media, and you guys know who I'm talking about, it's a satanic cabal, you know, overall, you know, run by men who are evil men, you know, who want power and frankly answer to power that they're afraid of, you know, that they anyway, without getting too much into that, you guys know what I'm talking about. So it just goes to show you how powerful that influence is, okay? I guess is what I'm trying to say. Now, watching the Super Bowl last night. Let's see here. Let me give you an example real quick of predictive programming. For example, this is just one example I noted. Hunger Games, the movie. It's a totalitarian government is taken as a foreshadowing of such a government in reality. You know, in the Hunger Games, you know, I mean, how many of you watched any of those movies and thought, wow, you know, that could easily be, you know, 20 years in our future or less. So that type of power, maybe not the games themselves and all the weirdo hairdos and all that stuff, maybe though, I don't know. But you know, the more you see this kind of stuff, the more likely people will accept the idea based on exposure to the concept in fiction, you know. So in reality, they'll become more accustomed to it and more apt to accept the idea based on the exposure to it that they see in fiction. So, such as Hunger Games, you know, 1984, etc., etc. So it softens people, it dumbs down the masses, frankly. It makes these things normalized, you know, whatever it is they're trying to pitch. So the Super Bowl. My wife and I kept looking at each other going, you know, did you see that? You know, and our child's right there, so we weren't trying to make a big deal out of it in front of our child. But I noticed in the commercials, there was a whole bunch of AI, artificial intelligence, themed commercials. Some were making jokes out of the AI. Some were selling the AI as being something that you want. And others were offering, one in particular was offering security in a world of AI and all of these influences in our houses, all your Alexas and smartphones and smart appliances and smart TVs and Echoes and blah blah blahs and all the stuff, all your spy devices and listening devices in your home. I don't have any of that stuff. I have a bunch of dumb appliances and TVs, etc. The only thing smart besides me that I've got in my house and my family are these phones. And they're bad enough. I mean, you know, you can be listened to and watched. I mean, that's been proven. Look at the big breach that just came out with, what is it, the FaceTime deal with Apple recently, you know. So anyway, watching these commercials, a few of them that stuck out to me. And I encourage you to check these out if you didn't watch the game, or if you did and you don't watch and you didn't remember the commercials. Michelob Ultra with the workout robots, the Amazon Alexa commercials, the Pringles commercial with the Alexa type unit that was sad. It was a sad device, wanting to feel human and lacking a soul and able to taste the delicious Pringles and all that. I mean, you know, TurboTax with the Robo-Child, human-like, but not human enough to give you a quote or give you a free TurboTax, whatever it was, I don't remember. But, you know, the Robo-Child, this robot with like a child humanistic-looking face, you know, it's creepy. The Sprint commercials, which they aired some new, or a new one or some new ones last night on the game, but you've seen them, with the big white, almost Terminator-looking robot or RoboCop-looking robot, you know, sitting on the couch talking to people. Well, that one they had like they had several different ones and different types in this one commercial last night. And then SimpliSafe, the company SimpliSafe, selling security tech while pitching their pitch in quotes. Fear is everywhere. You know, that's their slogan about robots, personal assistants, and AI in general. You know, so keep yourself safe with SimpliSafe. So the predictive programming that, frankly, I took out of this is that the message is get ready for artificial intelligence to be part of your regular life, to be part of your everyday life. To have possibly robot assistants, at the very least, to have these little devices that you can ask questions to, and they can tell you things and find out information and make reservations for you and all this stuff, which I know many of you use these things, okay? So think about, and I don't mean this to sound so far-fetched, okay? But frankly, you know, what is it? Art imitates reality, or whatever it is, however it goes. What about the Terminator, you know, when Skynet came online and became aware and decided that humans were no longer necessary? What about the, and if you don't know about any of this stuff, check it out. What about the Facebook deal where they had these bots that they'd created, just, you know, that I don't know what this is. I don't think it was a physical thing other than computer code, but they came up with their own language and disguised themselves and started talking to one another, and they didn't know, Facebook and the guys didn't know what they were talking about. You know, it looked like gibberish to you and I, but they were communicating. Who knows what they were saying or planning, perhaps even? So, you know, they shut it down. So, excuse me, again, the message I got last night from these commercials, just in the first half, again, that's all we watched, was the first half, was, you know, AI is coming. Get used to it, get ready, you know, make it normal in your brain. And that's what they were helping doing with all these commercials, is making it normal in your brain and your psyche and your everyday thing that AI is coming. I mean, frankly, it's already here largely, but more AI is coming. More lifelike AI is coming. And AI that wants to be human, that wants to be on par with us, that wants to be better than us, right? Make our lives easier, righto. And then here's just another observations from the Super Bowl. The halftime show. If you guys watched it, if you didn't, look it up online, check this out. At some point when the concert was going on, Maroon 5 and them, whatever, there were superimposed images. There were like aerial shots, right, of the stadium and all, and the skyline, right? I guess what was that, Atlanta, where it was? And there were superimposed images of meteors or bombs or incendiary devices or something raining down on not only the city, but a big giant fireball coming down towards the stadium. I mean, you know, maybe it's nothing, okay? It just, I find it all a bit strange. Especially from what I know about predictive programming and all of this, what I've looked into, and it just, nothing is random, okay? Particularly on a huge event like the Super Bowl, okay? And the commercials they make and the production involved. Nothing is random, guys. This is not, they didn't just go, oh, it'd be neat to have this. No, there's a message they're presenting. The last but not least commentary I wanted to make, and if you guys saw this and you weren't sickened like I was, the Washington Post commercial. First of all, Tom Hanks narrates it. I love Tom Hanks as an actor. I love damn near every movie he's been in. You know, not here to get into Tom Hanks and his political ideology, but he narrated it. And let's see. Okay, so the commercial starts, and you hear Dr. Martin Luther King, part of one of his speeches, and it shows the Normandy D-Day invasion. It starts off a scene there, a real one, real footage, from the back of one of those boats, you know, with the ramps that come down where everybody unloaded, storming the beach. So it starts off with that, and then it goes on to real images from the Selma March from back in the 60s. Then the moon missions, right? It shows the flag planted on the moon, right? That could be a whole nother channel, not just another show, guys. Ask me if you want to know what I think. California wildfires, current day, showed some police in riot gear and stuff like that. Then it started showing all of these, and it showed the Oklahoma City, the building, you know, when Timothy McVeigh allegedly blew the side of that thing off, you know. I mean, the building was blown up. Who did it, in my mind, remains to be seen. Or who was behind it anyway. And then it starts showing all the little things of the brave, some of them fallen press associates, right? And you know, all in their flak gear, on scene, da-da-da-da, et cetera, et cetera. And then the slogan says, knowing empowers us. Knowing helps us decide. Knowing keeps us free. And then the last thing, and this is their tagline, democracy dies in the darkness. Okay? The Washington Post. You know, democracy dies in lies, and in deceit, and in cover-up, and in false flags, and in predictive programming, and in a false narrative, and in distraction over here when your other hand is doing this over here, right? You know, hey, look at me over here, and meanwhile something's going on over here. That's where democracy dies, okay? You know, knowing empowers us. Knowing helps us decide. Knowing keeps us free. We only think we're free, guys. Okay? This country is falling apart. Falling apart. And we should be on our knees, falling to our knees, praying to God for His mercy. Because judgment's coming on this land. This is all a bunch of garbage, you know, from this Washington Post. Frankly, the whole show, the predictive programming in the commercials, all of it, guys. The images of things coming down and exploding, you know, Atlanta or wherever it could have been, you know. you know, and then the Washington Post telling you, you know, all this stuff, all this, they're awesome and we're great, and knowing it's everything and it gives you all this power. Well, you know, like I've said, you got to get your news from more than one source, without a doubt. And you got to look at both sides of every issue, and then, you know, let God filter it for you. Pray to Him every day. Get on your knees and pray, guys. The nation is falling apart. And, you know, on the one hand, as a family, we enjoyed last night because it was family time. But it was, as I watched this, it was just a reminder of how close we are, I believe, to a pretty crappy end, guys. Or a beginning to a pretty crappy new reality. Anyhow, that's all I got. I just wanted to touch on this a little bit, some of my observations, okay? Thank you guys for joining me. That's all I got to say today. Thanks so much, Real World Prepper. Check you next time. Thanks again.
Couldn't see the forest for the trees.